Hello and welcome to episode number 8 of the Latics Lowdown with me, Corey Bissell. A lot has gone on this week. A lot has gone on within the last hour, it seems. It always happens, doesn't it, on Wigan Twitter especially, where nothing happens and then all of a sudden something happens half an hour before I go live. I reiterate it every week, but it happens every time. Now, there's been quite a bit that has gone on in the last week. We are back. We are officially back. Chorley away has happened. We have seen the lads out on the pitch, or most of the lads anyway. We've seen some noticeable absentees. We've seen some players in positions that you wouldn't expect them to be playing in. But we'll jump straight into it. I'll get the bad news out of the way that Matt has unfortunately tagged me in on Twitter, and that is that Danny Imray, a player that me and Gabriel Sutton, if you didn't watch last week's episode with Gab, I recommend that you go back and watch it. We spoke about how to get out of this division, and we spoke about 5 players that we think we should sign, and one of those that we brought to the table was Danny Imray. Now, since that episode has dropped, we have had an update on Danny Imray's situation. Obviously, a Crystal Palace wingback who spent last season on loan at Bromley. Now it looks as though Huddersfield are leading the race to sign him on either a loan or a permanent basis, which, again, as a top quality player, a top quality 21-year-old wing back, it would have been really nice to have him at Wigan, but it was only speculation from myself and from Gab. And obviously, it looks as though he could be off to Huddersfield now. Obviously, nothing's confirmed as of right now, but Danny Imray to Huddersfield. Keep your eye on that. I'll bring you an update if and when that does permanently happen. Although one thing that I will bring into today's show, actually, while we're on the topic of Huddersfield Town, Jack Watmore. What do we think, lads? What do we think? Now, I won't comment on Jack Watmore's off the pitch antics. We'll go with antics, especially not on a podcast. Come to think of it, but on the pitch, Jack Watmore to Huddersfield is he'll be returning to the DW. Obviously, it's a good signing if we're honest. Jack Watmore in League One, like I said, if we talk strictly on the pitch, he was one of, if not the best defenders in the league for us last time out. Obviously, there's been a bit of time that's passed since then, but he's only got Championship experience under his belt since then. So I suppose you've got to give it to him really that he will be a top defender in this league. And now you look at that Huddersfield back line that's going to have Joe Lowe, Rowan, and Jack Watmore, and suddenly you wonder how Huddersfield are possibly going to concede a singular goal. They really are building a League One super team. But that is enough about Huddersfield Town. This is not the Town Lowdown. This is the Latics Lowdown. Now, since we've last spoke, quite a bit has happened. We'll jump straight in on the more trivial things, and that is that the new away kit has dropped, and it is an absolute beauty. Now, I am a firm believer that this is an all-timer of a kit. This is absolutely like, off the top of my head, I'm going top 5 Wigan kits of all time. I'd have to seriously sit down and think, but completely on a whim, I'm going top 5 kits of all time. It's absolutely beautiful. It's smart. It's subtle, and it's so good, isn't it? I mean, let's get some thoughts if we can in the comments for that away kit and for sort of what's been going on in the last week. If anyone's got any thoughts, feel free to chuck them in as always. But yeah, that away kit, Melissa Samoa donning it there. It's just an absolute beauty of a kit. But on the pitch, we have also been busy, and that is the signing of Callum Wright. Now, this time last week, we were talking and we were speculating with Gab Sutton over the potential signing of Ollie Cooper. I think this signing sort of kills that dead. We also suggested some other players that could play as the attacking 8 and as wing back. So again, go back and watch that video if you haven't already. But Callum Wright was not a player that either me or Gab suggested, but it is a player that has come through the door here. I am quite happy about this. Now, I've seen people point towards his goal record and be like, oh, he's not a goal scoring 8 that Ryan said that we were bringing in. That's not entirely true. I appreciate that in the Championship, his goal scoring record isn't necessarily what you would associate him with when Ryan Lowe said a goal scoring 8. But in League One, I think he's got between 17 and 20 odd goals, something like that, in 50 odd appearances in League One. he knows where the back of the net is. He's a good creative player. So I've seen mixed reviews from Plymouth fans, some saying that he lacks end product, some saying that he is a really quality player. I'd take the end product comments with a bit of pinch of salt, because obviously in the Championship it's a division above, and Plymouth haven't really. I mean, they're back in this division, so that tells you where they're at in terms of Championship standings. So Callum Wright obviously through the door now. That's our attacking midfielder boxed off for the season, I would imagine. Um, and yeah, well, welcome to Wigan, Callum. We hope he brings service for our four strikers. You would hope. Um, and yeah, I'm really excited to see what Callum can do. He reminds me of a little bit, and some people will take this the wrong way. A final third Tom Bayliss, if his technical ability ever amounted to anything. In that Tom Bayliss, I thought, was really good on the ball and he was quite elegant. He just did all of his work in his own defensive third. And really, what is the point? You know, he was like Matt Smith, but quite ineffective. But Callum Wright, I think, final third, similar to Tom Bayliss. I look forward to seeing him in a Wigan kit, in that beautiful new 06-07 retro throwback kit. Now, Callum Wright is not the only bit of transfer news, though, that has happened this week. We have also had an outgoing in the midfield, and that comes in the form of young Kai Payne. He has gone to Oldham on another season-long loan. He went to Oldham last season on loan for a portion of the season before picking up an injury and coming back in January. And I think, again, this is a really good move for Kai. Obviously, Oldham won that promotion to League Two, so he's stepping up a division with them. They obviously liked what they saw in that initial loan in the National League with them, which is also good to see, really, because, you know, they're willing to take him back. They obviously liked him. They believed in his qualities, and it's nice for Kai to get a division up. Obviously, now he's playing just one division below where we're currently at, and so it'll be good experience for Kai at a young age. I think Ryan Lowe said when talking about Kai that it's a player that he has been made aware has immense quality and immense potential at this football club, but he just hasn't seen it himself. And obviously, bringing in Callum Wright, already having Matt Smith, Babaradiko, Jensen Weir, Ronan Darcy, it's unlikely Kai would get enough minutes that he deserves to go and show that quality. And so that move to League Two, to Oldham, a club that he'll know, it's just a good move all round, I think, for all parties. If we're honest, I think Kai will develop. Oldham will get a really good player. There's no doubt. I mean, we've seen Kai Payne make a couple of senior appearances, and I personally think that there is a real potential in there for him, and we'll get our asset developed, which is brilliant. It's a win for everybody overall for me. Now, there is another rumor that is swirling at the moment of an outgoing, and to be honest, I would expect that to be confirmed within the next 24 hours, if not by the end of this show. This might be a repeat of the Christian Sadie saga where we were sat here for a while waiting for it to be confirmed. And that is Toby Sibic heading to Burton Albion. Now, Sibic, for me, he's fine, but, you know, is he a promotion chasing player? The fact that he's going to Burton, no disrespect to Burton, you would imagine, that speaks to where he's at, really. The player that Maloney brought in on a permanent, which was a rarity in that transfer window, and hasn't quite hit the ground running, I think is fair to say. Like I said, I mean, to be honest, if you'd have said to me 24 hours ago, Toby Sibic's leaving, where is he going? I'd probably have said someone that you would expect to be higher up the league than Burton. But, I suppose at the end of the day, if Burton are handing us a bit of money for Toby Sibic, you've got to take it, really. There's a replacement that looks as though it is being lined up to take his place in the squad that we will touch on later in today's episode. But again, nothing majorly groundbreaking here with Sibic leaving. It's similar to the Sessegnon deal, really. Apparently, Sessegnon as well has had interest from League One sides. It's nothing groundbreaking. If you'd have said a few weeks ago that Toby Sibic could leave Wigan in the summer transfer window, I don't think I'd have been all too shocked. And nor am I all too disappointed. He'll be remembered for that knee slide at Bolton away, but that's about it, really. He didn't make that much of a impact on this squad, whether that be for injury or other reasons, I don't know. But go well, Toby. No ill wish. I mean, I don't ill wish on any former players, but you know, he was a good lad, it seems, and a player that Sean Maloney rated, but just doesn't seemingly suit Ryan Lowe, and that's okay. He was spotted watching Burton's preseason game yesterday or at the weekend. I'm not too sure when Burton's preseason game was, but he was spotted at the ground. It's a deal that's going to happen. It's a deal that could well happen by the time we come off here. And yeah, Toby Subbit to Burton, replacement being lined up. We'll touch on that a bit later on. What else have we done? What else has happened this week? We're back. We're officially back. We played Chorley away. Preseason is well and truly off and running. And I, for one, am very giddy. I was at the Chorley game. I was in attendance, and there were some weird things that went on throughout the 90 minutes, like Matty Corran dribbling around 3 players in the right back position, and Harry McHugh starting at centre half, which, slightly strange. But we'll talk us through that now. It was a 2-1 win, and Dara Costello with both of the goals, Christian Sadie with both of the assists. That, for me, is the biggest takeaway from that Chorley game, is the link up between Christian Sadie and Dara Costello. I think you could tell that there was a stark difference. Obviously, you don't want to go too early on who worked with who, because it's the first game of pre-season. Everyone's returning to fitness. It's not really an indictment on the players at all. But for me, there was a big difference between the partnership between Melise Asamoah and Paul Mullin in that first half, and the partnership between Dara Costello and Christian Sadie in the second. I really, really enjoyed watching Sadie and Costello playing off of each other. I think the idea of having Sadie as this sort of final third battering ram or like backboard to play off was brilliant. I think he held the ball up brilliantly. His strength, you can tell straight away, is a huge asset of his, and his ability to lay it off as well for Dara Costello. I mean, if you haven't already, go back and watch that first goal. Wow, the interplay between the two, considering they'd have trained together a handful of times at most, is really, really incredible. Big fan of Christian Sadie. Obviously, a big fan of Dara Costello getting 2 goals on his debut. Nice to get off and running. I think you could tell in that first half, I was behind the goal that we were shooting at in the first half, and every time Paul Mullin would miss a chance or take a missed touch, there was real frustration there from Mullin. You can tell that, a little bit like Charlie White when he first came in and he didn't get that goal for a couple of weeks. You can tell Mullin does not want that. You can tell that straight away he wants to get firing. And he's got a point to prove as well. So I'm not surprised that he wants that for himself. But Dara Costello, off the mark. Christian Sadie, 2 assists. It was great to see. Some other things that I'd highlight from that game: Johnny Smith at left wing back. I think this is an experiment that is limited in time, to be honest. I think by the time we sign another wing back, I mean, me and Gab, again, shameless plug of the previous episode, spoke about it last week. We went and suggested a couple of wing backs, and I would anticipate that Johnny Smith's days at wing back, at least, are numbered. He had a couple of decent moments where he came in field from the left-hand side and had a couple of nice passages of play with Leo Graham, who I was also impressed by in that midfield three. As Leo Graham, I believe, throughout the academy has played as a striker. I don't doubt he's probably played all across the front line, but to see Leo Graham in that midfield three and thriving, to be honest, was also good to see. But yeah, wing back, I would expect Johnny Smith's days to be numbered there, to be honest. A couple of noticeable absentees. We had no Fraser Murray, who wasn't quite up to speed. No Callum Wright, obviously he'd only signed the day prior. But yeah, it was a really interesting game. Obviously, I don't doubt people that were at the game would have seen there were some really strange positions that people were popping up in. So Harry McHugh started the game with John Mellish as wide centre halves, with Jason Kerr in the middle. Second half, we had Kamani Miller at left-sided centre half. Before being subbed off, we had Luke Robinson in the middle of a back three. At some point, when Kamani Miller came off, I saw Jensen Weir popping up at right-sided centre half. It was a real mixed match. I don't doubt it's down to sort of unavailability or lack of fitness or certain things that mean certain players can't play in certain positions, like Toby Civic even leaving for Burton would have been why he wasn't in that right centre half spot. But, it was interesting to see sort of Ryan Lowe experimenting with certain players in certain positions and having a mess around here and there. I think the ones that are really interesting, I mean, you wouldn't anticipate Jensen Weir to be playing games at centre half. Same for Harry McHugh, really, even though he did it in parts for the academy sides that he played in. But like Leo Graham in midfield is one that you should keep your eye on. Dion Rankine at right wing back, we looked to him a lot when we were breaking on Chorley. I thought he had a solid enough game, and yeah, I just think minutes in the legs. It was a good day out as well. Well done to Chorley for putting that on. It was a successful day out. The only thing I would say, get more than one entrance to your ground, because I did a full 360 of the ground and missed the first 10 minutes of the game because they only have one open entrance on a friendly. So thank you for that, Chorley. So moving on, that's what's been and gone. Where are we going? That is the key question. We can only move forwards, lads, and the lads are currently in Spain enjoying them. Well, are they enjoying themselves? Is one thing that I would say, because I have seen some of the shuttle runs that Ryan Lowe has got these lads doing, and they are going to be in shape when they come back. They're obviously having fun in moments in the pool. There's clips of them playing head tennis, and Ryan Lowe here driving the centre back union on a golf caddy that someone on Twitter, forgive me, I don't have the actual tweet, but somebody has edited Destination the Championship on it, and it's brilliant. So yeah, it's good to see the lads enjoying themselves out in Spain when they're not running 700 miles. Um, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how quickly we make signings and whether they are brought out to Spain. On Spain as well, I believe I read the other day that there are over 300 ticks that are going to be at that game against Ashton, which, I mean, the amount of years that we've been waiting for a pre-season abroad, it doesn't overly surprise me that so many people have snapped on it. But fair play, taking over 300 is it's good. It's good going. I've got to be honest. For a pre-season friendly in another country, it's going to be a lot of money to fork out to go and see that. So well played to those ticks who are making that trip. I commend you. And like Ryan Lowe said, get up on that hill and just enjoy the game and destination the championship. Really, this is where the most important part of the season is the pre-season. You get those foundations in, you get your players in early, and you can really accelerate and make sure that you have a good start to the season, and you just go from there. Obviously, last season, Sean Maloney spoke about wanting most of his squad in for the first day of pre-season. That didn't happen, and look how last season went. Ryan Lowe, obviously, he won't have his full squad ready and raring to go. He'll want wing backs, I don't doubt. But barring wing backs, you've got to beg the question now. Unless outgoings are major, or we get outgoings that we wouldn't necessarily want, you would anticipate that Ryan Lowe is probably a Toby Civic replacement and maybe a wing back or two away from his full squad now, which is really exciting to see. Important that we got that forward line sorted so early. Like I spoke about earlier, like link up between Sadie and Dara Costello. It's important to get those things in early and get you sort of used to each other, especially in the final third. And so, good to see the lads out in Spain. Like I said, enjoying themselves when they can. Now, transfer rumours. We are moving on. We have got two. One of them, not quite sure where it's come from. The other one, natural Toby Civic replacement, but I'm gonna leave that until last. Of course I am, because you need to keep watching. You can't just be getting what you want and then leaving. The first transfer rumour we have been hit with is that of David Harrington. Now, this one has ever so slightly confused me. Now, I've got to be honest, prior to the link, I didn't know much about David Harrington at all. But he's been linked to us, Bolton and Preston. So you're sort of thinking, okay, So he must be a decent player because those are like obviously a championship side, and then two top end League One teams in us and Bolton. As much as we won't want to admit it about those lot, but David Harrington. So I had a look. Who is he? And he only played half of last season for Fleetwood and kept 7 clean sheets, which is good going. Solid goalkeeper, distribution's fine, left-footed, similarly to Sam Tickle. Now, something that I've picked up on based off of both the Chorley game and the Spain videos is that Tom Watson doesn't seem to be involved at the moment. Now, I'm unsure as to whether that's through injury or whether that is a squad decision in terms of maybe he's going out on loan or anything like that. I'm completely unsure as to what's happening with Tom Watson at the moment. But if Watson is to head out on loan, we are going to need a backup goalkeeper. I don't think Matty Corran, you can quite put that burden on him yet as a young lad. So we would need a backup goalkeeper. David Harrington would be that to Sam Tickle. The only thing that I hope is that it doesn't sort of mean that Sam Tickle is moving anywhere. That wouldn't be ideal at all. I've not seen any rumours of Sam Tickle going anywhere other than one person on Facebook saying he was off to QPR, which is just not true. Or at least for now, it's not true. He'll go to QPR now that I've said that, but So yeah, Harrington, again, we've touched on goalkeepers prior. How much can you really say about them? They're as long as they're a steady pair of hands and they can kick it quite far, at least like that, they'll do, I guess. I mean, it's got to be said. I would preface goalkeeper chat with this in that no matter who we replace Sam Tickle with, they're going to be worse. So, I'd be careful when it comes to us because the time's going to come where Tickle's going to go. And so I would be very careful with how much expectation we put on a new goalkeeper because we've seen. Oh, I know they're on different planets, but like we've seen with Andre Onana at Man United, like if you pile pressure on a goalkeeper, it can just fall down on them. So I would be careful with how much pressure we put on Harrington and how much we put on Watson and Corran and any goalkeeper that comes through the door here because they do have big gloves to fill already without needing to be told that constantly. But yeah, David Harrington's been a transfer link between Preston, us and Bolton. I would imagine he'd be a backup at all those clubs. Bolton have just signed a new goalkeeper from Chelsea. Preston have lost Woodman, but you would imagine would want someone a bit more high profile to replace him. So you would imagine he'd be a backup at all those teams. Now, Don, thank you very much. You're swiftly giving me a nice little way into our final segment here today. Interested to see the Okagbue section from Walsall myself, so I've seen quite a few of his games. Now, Don, stick about, my friend, because we will bring you in a moment, because that is valuable insight that I can use it. The final transfer rumour that we have for the week is David Okagbue of Walsall. Now, me and Dan Stacey on episode 5, 6, something like that, we touched on another Walsall defender in Taylor Allen when we were suggesting that we need a player at the back for depth. Now, Taylor Allen has obviously gone to Wickham, so that's done. But Okagbue is not a name that I necessarily had on my radar either, but it's one that we've been linked to quite heavily. Now, I'll preface this with I think this will happen, and I think this will happen quite swiftly. The transfer rumour came out, I believe, a day or at least a good amount of hours before the Toby Civic news that he would be leaving to Burton. And you would imagine that if we've been linked with a right-sided centre-half hours before our right-sided centre-half is on his way out, you would imagine that this has potentially been in the pipeline for a little bit anyway, and that it will swiftly happen. One out, one in, hence the title of today's episode, Centre-Back Swap. Now, Okagbue as a player, who is he? How does he fit in? What are his strong points? Aerial duels are a good strong point of him, is something that I would say. Very, very solid in the air. Stacks up quite good for both the amount and the percentage of aerial duels that he wins. Um, Stacks up quite well against Jason Kerr. Stacks up quite well against James Carragher. One thing that I will say is that when I was researching Okagbue, I was going through sort of aerial and ground duels. Will Aimson is a monster in the air. I know this isn't relevant to Okagbue, but I need to say this. Will Aimson wins something like 73% of his aerial duels, which is like outrageous. That is up there with like the best centre backs in this league. You talk about Rowan, you talk about Joe Lowe, and it's up there with their numbers. So Will Aimson, fair play to you, son, because you went under the radar in terms of that. But back to Okagbue, wins a good solid portion of aerial duels, wins a good solid portion of his ground duels. Just a solid defender from what I've seen of him. He's only 21 years old, which I've got to say, I thought he was a bit older than that, but he isn't. He's been capped at under 19s and under 21s level for Ireland. Was of Stoke Academy, which, I mean, Don, again, I'm sure you can weigh in on this. There seems to be a real connection between Stoke and Walsall over recent years. You've got Nathan Lowe, you've got Sidibe, the midfielder, you've got, is his name Simkin, the goalkeeper, something along those lines, and then obviously Okagbue himself. So obviously the locality there will be the reason why they're so close in transfer dealings. But Okagbue, again, solid defender, decent at playing it out. He'll obviously come in on that right hand side to battle it out with James Carragher. Josh Robinson doesn't really seem to be pushing Carragher or Civic, but maybe that's because Civic's been in his way. But that Josh Robinson just seemingly isn't here. You know what I mean? Like, he is here, but he seemingly isn't. It's as if it's as if we never signed him. Don, thank you, mate. For me, very underwhelming signing from what I've seen, but maybe under a very good coach, he becomes solid. One thing that I would say about this, Don, is that I've seen this a lot. The reaction to this, especially from Walsall fans. And I appreciate your comment, mate. Thank you for getting involved. I've seen a lot of like, oh, you should have seen him in the playoff final, or you should have seen him at this game in the second half of the season. In this game, that whole Walsall team capitulated. You know what I mean? Like the first half of the season, they were all unbelievably good. And I'm sure if I'd have been doing this in January and we were linked to David Okagbue, I'm sure Walsall fans would be gutted that he was leaving in January. And then obviously you fast forward to the end of the season, and I will say he did have a poor playoff final. I did watch that game. I'm talking foul throws. I'm talking just kicking the ball out of play when trying to pass it. Like, he had a very, very poor playoff final. But that can happen to anyone. Like, anyone can have a one-off game. It just so happens that it happened in the playoff final, and suddenly it's much bigger than it needs to be. Obviously, you wouldn't want that to happen at all. But again, it's one game. Like, it can just happen, especially as you've said here, Dom. I do feel it's a future prospect signing, though. There's definitely glimpses with him. He's very known as a defender at times. Yeah. Again, like you said, with the future prospect, he's a young lad, so these poor games will happen. My point that I would bring here is, if Josh Robinson can't get into this side or can't push Carragher, and Civic is deemed to just not suit the system or just not be a player that Ryan Lowe's particularly interested in, will Okagbue push Carragher? Probably. He probably will. You've got to think. He's stepping into one of the best defences in League One last year. He's not expected to displace Carragher or Kerr or Aimson. It's more an idea of, we're losing a number in Civic. You're going to need to gain a number, and you may as well gain a 21-year-old who has now first team experience in the league, is physical, can win it in the air, but is on the younger end of his career and can develop. Because obviously, I mean, it's like Charlie Hughes and it's like Sam Tickle and it's like Tello Asgard. If James Carragher keeps going the way he's going and we don't accelerate at a similar rate, he will be a championship defender with or without us. So you're going to need that, that churn of talent coming through. Thank you, Don, again. Hopefully Okagbue can use the Walsall connection to bring Barrett in too. Both signings make sense. I agree, mate. Don, I'm not sure if you'll have watched it, but if anyone else hasn't watched it, Connor Barrett is a player. Not to spoil it too much, but Connor Barrett is a player that we spoke about last week with Gab Sutton. Um, so yeah, that'd be a great signing, mate. I'd love that. But yeah, that's Okagbue. Uh, it's nothing to really shout about. Like I said, Civic leaving isn't really anything to shout about either. But just a body through the door, really. I mean, one thing that I would say this time last year, it was last year, wasn't it? When did we sign Williamson? It was last year. I'm going with last year. This time last year, I saw us sign Williamson, and I just sort of went, "Yep, that'll do." Defender for depth, good. And by the end of the season, he was in for a solid shout of our player of the season, and was now I deem as a stalwart in our back line, in a back line that was one of the best back lines in the division. So, Okagbue could easily do similar, where he comes in and he's under the radar and suddenly he displaces Carragher because he's that good. I'm not saying that will happen, but it's entirely plausible. So, yeah, defenders and goalkeepers, nothing majorly to write home about. My interest now would be diverting to wing backs personally. As Don touched on there, Connor Barrett would be a lovely one. Danny Imre, as I brought in the early stages of the show, would be another lovely one. But yeah, wing backs would be where I go next. Obviously, once Okagbue's done, because you are going to need a player to replace Toby Civic's place in the squad. I mean, like I touched on about the Chorley game, if you've got Harry McHugh, Kamani Miller, Jensen Weir playing minutes at centre half, it's clear there that you need a bit of depth. Don, again, thank you. Very good squad depth. You spot on with the Aimson point. Just got to trust low, haven't we? Exactly, mate. And Aimson, obviously, a player that has now been at every club bar Preston that Ryan Lowe has been at. So I'm sure he'll love Aimson. I'm sure if he put it this way, Ryan Lowe was a striker, right? So this works both ways in that he has obviously brought in Mullin, he's brought in Costello in his mould, he's brought in Sadie. He knows what he wants in a striker. But I'll tell you what else he'll know, what he doesn't like playing against. So, I'm sure Ryan Lowe's looked at Okagbue, and part of him, because he wouldn't bring him into his squad otherwise, has gone, yeah, if I was in my playing days, I wouldn't want to play against you. So, clearly he's seen something in Okagbue there that there is to develop. Again, 21 years old, like there is absolutely loads of room for development there, and you're gonna need in a three back system, you're gonna need 5 minimum centre halves, and ideally a couple of players that can play there as well. So like Luke Robinson, for example, can fill in on the left hand side of a defence, and John Mellish, if you see him as a midfielder, can also slip in the left side of defence. Harry McHugh, he wouldn't be my pick to start at centre back in a league game, but he has played minutes at centre back for the academy. So I suppose if needs must, it can happen. But just to round today's episode, we'll go through our defensive depth then. So we've got left side of defence, we've got Luke Robinson, John Mellish, Williamson, who will serve that 3-match ban at the start of the season. So obviously Mellish or Luke Robinson, you would imagine will fill in there. I would imagine it'll be John Mellish. So you got those three that can play on the left-hand side. Then you've got down the middle, Jason Kerr, really. That's about it. But again, Williamson can always shuffle into the middle. I'm sure Okagbue can do the same, and Carragher can do that as well. But then primarily right-sided defenders, you've got Carragher and hopefully Okagbue. So suddenly, Aimson, Robinson, Mellish, Kerr, Okagbue, we're looking all right. We're looking all right at the back in a team that were very good at the back, regardless of any incomings or outgoings. Don, thanks again, mate. I'm pretty sure Barrett can cover both sides as well, Northerner as well, so love him personally. I agree. Connor Barrett can probably cover both sides. I've not seen him play on the left as much as I've seen him play on the right. Again, go back and watch Gab specific. If you don't even want to watch the whole episode, just go back and watch Gab talk about Connor Barrett. Connor Barrett is one of Gabriel Sutton's favourite EFL players, it seems, and he speaks about his ability to dribble in multiple different sort of ways. And so I would imagine, based off what Gab said, that would potentially translate over to the left hand side as well. So I don't disagree, mate. Northerner as well. I didn't know that. I knew that he came through at Filed, so I can't say I'm surprised by it, but that is interesting. But yeah, that's gonna round out today's episode. Not an awful lot to report on in terms of incomings, bar I suppose there was really. Callum Wright came through the door, but he's been here for ages now. Move on to the next one. But yeah, transfer rumours just a goalkeeper and David Okagbue. So yeah, that will bring us towards the end of today's episode. I hope that all of you enjoy Spain, those that are going and those that are there now, and I really hope that you enjoy the friendly in Spain. Get yourselves down to training, as Ryan Lowe said. The invitation is there. I hope that people take him up on that because it would be. I would love to be there myself. Obviously, I can't because I'm at uni. So yeah, absolutely. Enjoy Spain. Enjoy your sangria. And here's to David Okagbue, and here's to bringing in more signings. I guess. Ta-ra. Thanks for coming.